Okay, I'm admitting now. All right, welcome everyone. We are still waiting for a few parents to join, so just give a minute and then we'll kick off.
Zaten in class.
Can you be on mute, please?
But the thing is, it's not gonna. I have only 2% as well.
Hello, parents. If you can be on mute, that would be helpful. Thank you. Okay, I think we have everyone now, and it's good time to start. Welcome again, everyone, in this GCSE English webinar hosted by Sahyog Academy. As you know, we have been helping parents and students since almost a decade now. It has been a great journey, and always, time to time, we have been asking parents where they need more attention and help, and we try to arrange seminars like this and webinars like this, either face-to-face sometimes and online mostly nowadays, so that we can reach out to most of the people in the UK. So this is GCSE English webinar. Exams ongoing at the moment, as well as many parents are looking forward for 25 exam from preparation perspective. So we have come back with this GCSE English webinar in which we're going to touch base about GCSEs. Parents, if you can be on mute, please. Let me see. 1 second. William, sir, your slide is moving. Just if you can, let me mute these parents first. 1 second. All right, we are good. So yes, we have come back with this GCSE English webinar in which we're going to touch base GCSEs as well as the examining bodies in UK, exam style questions, tips and tricks, and some freebies at the end. And there will be a question and answer session. So welcome everyone to this webinar. And I'm really pleased with the team who has prepared and worked hard for this webinar. Will sir will be leading from the front, and Sab ma'am as well as Rose ma'am, who will be walking you through this evening about GCSE English, which is something very, very important, you know, from GCSE's perspective, right? So without delaying further, let's start. Will sir, if you can please move on to the next slide. So this is something I have already explained. Sahyog Academy has been helping parents since last almost 10 years. 7K is the old number. It's 10K plus now. And our kids, or you can say students, have been placed in top grammar schools, as well as, now they are in GCSEs and A level, and some of them has passed and been in universities, top universities in UK. We can touch base on this later. We are already a few minutes late. So without delaying further, I would hand over microphone to Will sir who will be walking you through now on. Thank you, Will sir. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sanjay ji. And as you said, we need to go a bit fast towards the target area of tips and tricks. Although I'm walking you through the fundamentals, which of course can become repetitive because, of course, you're well aware of that. So, to begin with, the fundamental question, what is GCSE? So, that's General Certificate of Secondary Education. Now, we are talking about KS4, years 10 and 11. Although there's an option, but we'll talk about that later. Generally, GCSEs are taken in years 10 and 11, culminating in year 11. And we're talking about teenaged students. Now, back in 1986, it replaced the original O levels and CSEs. So there's a long history. We'll also talk about the grading system, transferring from alphabetical to numerical grading. So we have three main exam boards, AQA, RXL, and OCR. In this presentation, we are basically going to focus upon AQA because as far as English language and literature papers are concerned, it has been observed that AQA is the most popular board. So, of course, in the span of whatever time we have, we cannot cover all the three boards. And the types of questions and the depths of questions are also different in the three boards. Papers are similar, but the questions they differ. So we are not going into the detail of all the boards. We are covering the one most popular board. For GCSE, that is AQA. The question is, why is GCSE score important? And it's very fundamental. It's important because the colleges, they ask for it. The employers, they ask for it. When you're going to join the university, sometimes you don't have the A-level grades. So many universities ask for your GCSE grade. They pay attention to that. They ask for a minimum level. We're going to talk about that, which level they're going to ask about. Minimum grades. They mention these many grades in these many subjects. That's very specific. So, of course, paying attention to GCSE subjects and grade combination is very, very important. Now, the grades that some top level universities ask for, it is somewhere like for maths, English, 7, which is a bit high, but then we're talking about top level universities. And then the minimum grade, of course, there are two kinds of pass. So we are going to look at that too. As far as the grades are concerned, earlier there was G to A star. Now it is a 1 to 9, 9 being the highest grade. And there are two kinds of pass. Standard pass, that is grade 4. Strong pass, that is grade 5. There are some institutions that don't look for standard pass. They go beyond even strong pass, a minimum of grade 5 or 6. As mentioned already, there are many kinds of boards, 5 most popular ones, 3 very popular in England, 1 that is AQA, the exam board, that is the most popular as far as the numbers are concerned, as far as the schools and students are concerned. So, of course, AQA, PS and Excellent OCR, and we are going to talk about English in AQA. When we talk about the structure of education, then of course we begin with Ofqual, that is the official body, and it regulates the structure of which organization offer GCSEs, AS and A levels. Then there is DOE or Department for Education. So it lays down the policies for the exam boards, how they would develop papers, specifications, and mark scheme, etc., for GCSEs, A level, etc. And the boards, they work under this framework that is provided to them. As far as the choice of the board is concerned, if someone is enrolling as a student, regular student in school, of course, the schools make the decision for which subject, which board. But if someone is choosing the boards, taking the exam privately, then of course they get to choose the board. So the freedom of choice is with the school for regular candidates and in the hands of the candidate who is taking it privately. These are the main boards that we're talking about, 5 of them: AQA, Pearson and Excel, OCR, WJEC, and CCEA. The structure of examination in English paper is like this, that for AQA, there are 2 exams, 2 papers, and there is, of course, spoken language, 80 marks for written exam, 160 in total. For Pearson and Excel also 2 exams in spoken language, again 160. Instead of 80 plus 80, it is 64 plus 96. For OCR, again 2 papers and spoken language, non-exam evaluation. There is 160 marks, 80 marks each. Although the paper looks similar, 160 marks, all of them, but we'll see that the types of questions are different. And the AOs also, how they are assessed, they also may vary. Then there's WJEC, it's 240 marks. And CCEA, we're not going to talk about them at all, 420 marks. As I said, we are going to focus upon AQA. So for AQA English literature texts, these are the options. There is Shakespearean texts, 6 of them, out of which student or school choose one. Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, The Tempest, The Merchant of Venice, Much Ado About Nothing, and Julius Caesar. Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet, as far as I have seen, they are the 2 most popular options. Then there is a 19th century novel, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, A Christmas Carol, Great Expectations, Jane Eyre, Frankenstein, Pride and Prejudice, and The Sign of Four, A Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and A Christmas Carol. These 2 are the most popular. Modern text, drama and prose, any one of them, not both of them. Drama and Inspector Calls, Blood Brothers, DNA, A Taste of Honey, Princess and the Hustler, Leave Taking, and Inspector Calls being the most popular. And then fiction, Lord of the Flies, Telling Tales, Animal Farm, Anita and Me, Pigeon English, My Name is Leon, Lord of the Flies being the most popular, Animal Farm also popular. Then there is poetry anthology and there is unseen poetry. So 2 questions on poetry. Poetry anthology, there are various themes: love and relationship, power and conflict, worlds and lives, power and conflict being the most popular one. How am I saying the most popular one? Because we're talking about majority of students, majority of schools, or a large number of students, or proportion of students in schools. So Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet, A Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and A Christmas Carol, and Inspector Calls, and Lord of the Flies, Power and Conflict anthology. These are the most popular options. So you could choose out of those many texts, 1 text from Shakespeare, out of those many texts from 19th century, 1 text out of those many texts among drama and fiction from post 1914, only 1 text, 1 of the anthologies from among these 3 themes that we talked about, and of course, unseen poetry question. As I repeatedly said, we are going to focus upon AQA. There are 2 papers, Shakespeare and the 19th century novel in the first one, modern texts and poetry in the second one. In poetry, there'll be 2 kinds of questions, the anthology question and the unseen poetry question. So I repeat, there'll be a Shakespearean text and 19th century novel in 1 paper. And there'll be poetry questions, unseen and seen, and modern text in another paper. For Shakespearean text, there'll be AO4 assessed. But for 19th century novel, it will not be assessed. The time that we have for the first paper is 1 hour 45 minutes. Total time for the second paper is 2 hour 15 minutes. 64 plus 96. Total number of marks. So we have got 160 marks. Now, when we are looking at AOs, then 3 AOs are assessed for Shakespeare question, plus 4 marks for the fourth AO. And 3 AOs assessed for 19th century novel question also. So the suggested timings are approximately 50 minutes each, in which we have the planning time or the reading time included. This has to be looked into deeper and prepared when the student starts preparing, because timing is very important, and managing it well, it makes all the difference. So just saying that, okay, go for 45 minutes for modern text, 45 minutes for anthology, then 45 minutes for unseen poetry, that will not suffice. We'll have to think about which text is covered by the student, give some flexibility to the student. So it's a rough idea of dividing and managing time, but it is very much student specific. So there is not one capsule to be given to everyone. It's flexible, and plan has to be made based on what the student needs and what the student thinks and performs as. So when we are talking about these papers, we should not neglect the non-examination assessment spoken language part, which is assessed by the schools. That is AO 7 to AO 9. And this is about the way of presentation, the confidence with which the student speaks and responds to questions, and the kind of language the student uses. So although we all the time talk about and prepare for written examination, this is also a very important part, uh, because as far as practical language skills are concerned, that is listening, speaking, reading, and writing, speaking and listening skills are also tested, and they are very, very much important. I'm not going to the details of the question because we are going to cover 3 texts, and we'll cover those 3 texts and the questions there in detail. And that's why I'm not going to the details of every kind of questions, although we do have the details of questions, but we're not going to the deep depth of that. Yes, AOs, because they are very important. So I think I'll jump towards the assessment objectives and discuss a little bit. So for literature, as you can see, these are the main assessment objectives. I'll start with AO4. The reason is that that's the one that students, even from their earlier stages, like 11 plus, they understand. They used to call it SPAC. It's a little bit more than that. But then AO4 is your style, the kind of language that you use. Of course, errors are not allowed, be it in spelling, punctuation, or grammar. So it's about how you express yourselves, technical proficiency. That's called AO4. There are 2 questions in which AO4 is assessed. And in those questions, it becomes very important for you to write well. Technical proficiency is also very important for language paper. When we go there, I will talk about that too. Then let's jump to AO1. That's the simplest one, in which it is assessed how you have understood the texts that you have read at surface level. So it's not like going very deep into that. There are sometimes excerpts provided in some kind of questions like poetry and Shakespeare. So the excerpts are right in front of you, and you are expected to use and quote from them. So explicit understanding of whatever is provided in the text, and also the implied meaning. Both of them are tested in AO1. AO3, students generally miss it, or give it at surface level, where you are expected to show your understanding of the relationship between text and the context. That is the outside world, the writer's mind, and from out of the writer's mind came out the text. It's not just writing that, okay, this is an Edwardian text that will fetch you marks. But if you could correlate Priestley's life with the era in which the text is situated, and also write about the fact that Priestley grew up during that span, that makes some impact. That is AO3. And then AO2, plain and simple analysis of how the writer uses language. form, structure, etc., to create meanings and effects. So these are the major AOs of English literature. Then when we talk about English language, again, AO1 is about meaning in front of you, explicit and implicit. And of course, how you can synthesize ideas. AO2 is about opening up, explaining, commenting, analyzing all these skills that are in you. Of course, they are based on different kinds of questions. AO3 is about writers, ideas, and perspectives. And then how language is used to convey those ideas and perspectives. AO4 for textual critical evaluation. And then also linking with textual references. These AOs are very important. For whichever question, whichever specific AO has been mentioned, that has to be taken care of. Now, before going to AO6 or 5, I will go to AO7, 8, and 9, because these three are for speaking and listening skills that are not evaluated in written examination. AO7 is for presentation skills in formal setting. AO8 is how you listen and respond to the spoken language. AO9 is use of standard English effectively. So AO7 to 9 for speaking and listening part that the schools conduct. AO5 and AO6, they are roughly the kind of AO4 thing that we were talking about, proficiency in language, technical proficiency, avoidance of any kind of errors. There are questions in which AO5 and AO6 are explicitly mentioned, where you get extra points for them. And of course, even if it is not mentioned, it's always a good idea to be technically proficient and using language. Next, Sab ma'am to take over from here. Sab ma'am.
Yes, sir. So, since Will sir has explained the AOs, we would like to go to the questions which are asked. As he said, one of the most popular plays of Shakespeare is Macbeth, and the students choose this. Even the schools have chosen this because it's something, if understood well, you can do very well in this, and the scores can go very high. Your grades can go very high if you really deal with the questions well. And before I begin with this specific question, I would like to say that Shakespeare's plays are mostly said to be timeless. So when you are thinking about the AOs which you need to fulfill about how you connect the text and the context, it's very important to look at that when you are dealing with this play as well. So here you have an extract from Act 5, Scene 1 of Macbeth, and it is talking about through the dialogues, you have to conclude about the character of Lady Macbeth. This is one of the most important characters in the play. So this part or this extract which you see in front of you is plays a very pivotal role in this play, that is Macbeth. If you look at the dialogue here, you will find basically there are three characters here in this particular extract where you have Lady Macbeth, you have a doctor who has come to visit her because she has not been keeping well, and you have a lady who looks after her. She is suffering from sleepwalk. That is, she walks while she is sleeping. And if you look at, again, I would just like to read it very quickly and before I give you the exact techniques how to handle this question. So you see that at this Lady Macbeth's health is affected as she's in guilt of Duncan's murder. So there is a small hint given to you that this scene is specifically connected to that time when Lady Macbeth has lost her mind, I would say, and she is suffering from the feeling of guilt. And here is what you see in front of you. Enter Lady Macbeth with a taper. Lo you, here she comes. This is her very guise. And upon my life, fast asleep, observe her, stand close. These are the dialogues of the lady who has been attending to Lady Macbeth. Doctor, how came she by that light? Gentlewoman, why, it stood by her. She has light by her continually. 'Tis her command. Doctor, you see, her eyes are open. Gentlewoman, ay, but their senses shut. Doctor, what is it she does now? Look how she rubs her hands. Gentlewoman, it is an accustomed action with her. To seem thus washing her hands, I have known her continue in this a quarter of an hour. I would say that when I am reading this or when you are reading this, you can make out that the language of Shakespeare is not something normally which we use in our everyday life. It doesn't match with the language which we use in our spoken English, neither the written English. So it's completely different. So, how do I deal with this type of questions in my exams? The first thing we focus on is that we need to annotate such speeches. Now, what do I mean by annotate? I mean to say, when the student is studying and to fulfill the AOs, it is very important that he's able to comprehend what he or she is reading. And for that, you need to have a pencil in your hand when you are reading such speeches, when you are preparing for your exam. I'm talking about preparation. I'm not talking about the exam as of now. Why? I'll just give you a small hint about this. When you annotate, you try to make things easier for yourself. So when you are preparing, you need to annotate the speech, prepare yourself, and when you go for your exams, you can use what you have understood to give your answers according to the questions. Sir, could you please move the slide? So here we are. Let's complete the speech. Dr. Hark, she speaks. I will set down what comes from her to satisfy my remembrance the more strongly. So the doctor is amazed by what she is doing. And he says, I'm going to make a note of what she's doing so that later on I can study it or I can do a research on it. Lady Macbeth, out, damn spot. Out, I say. 1, 2, why? Then 'tis time to do it. Hell is murky. Fie, my lord, fie, a soldier, and a feared. What need we fear who knows it, when none can call our power to count? Yet, who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? In this speech, we can clearly see that what she is saying is cryptic. It's like the sentences are not attached to each other. So, until and unless the student has really read the other scenes which came before this, he will or she will not be able to understand what she is saying just now. So obviously, when I say that there will be two types of questions in Shakespeare, one will be directly connected to the extract which has been given, and the other question will be connected to the whole play. So obviously, when we are dealing with this, the first question, which is connected to the speech or the extract which has been given here, it's easy. You look at the extract, you make your conclusions, you make your inferences, and you answer. However, if you have to answer the next question, the second question, wherein it deals with the whole play, the changes in the characters of Lady Macbeth, for example, in the play. She begins as a very strong character in the play, where she is instigating her husband to do the murder of the king so that he can become the king. And later on, she is filled with guilt and she cannot find, you can say, she nothing can console her. She becomes, ultimately she loses her mind and she becomes sick, and just before the end of the play she dies. So until and unless the student has read the whole play line by line and annotated it, the person will not be able to understand the play. And therefore, when he answers the questions which have been put in the question paper, he will not be able to give the exact things which are needed in that answer. Plus, it is advisable that the student quotes some of the important dialogues from the play to get a better grade. That is highly recommended that the student should learn a few quotations from the play which are connected to the questions which are put in GCSE exams. Here is the role which we can play, the teachers can play, make the student mark out. We also do this to mark out the important key dialogues, which are very important, since most of the times the questions are related to the development of the characters. We focus on those scenes, on those dialogues which are related to the development of the character in the play of Shakespeare. So here we go. to the speech of Lady Macbeth, I would be very quick with this. The Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? What will these hands never be clean? So she comes back again and again to the theme of cleaning her hand. So from this action of hers, we can conclude, now the student can conclude, can infer that she is highly affected by guilt. And that is not leaving her mind. She might be thinking here and there, but again, she comes back to the same point, saying that the blood is not going from her hand. So the doctor becomes a little, uncomfortable, and he asks the lady to leave because he thinks that she has come to know what she shouldn't have known. So she has spoke what she should not. I'm sure of that. Heaven knows what she has known. The lady is also disturbed. So Lady Macbeth hears the smell of blood still. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little uh, hand, whatever she says. So actually, there's a lot of, you can say, figures of speech used by Shakespeare to come to the point, to bring this effect, to make the audience look towards the stage, to connect with them, and to feel the play. It's not only about reading the play, it's about feeling the play as well. And if the student is able to get that feeling, he will be able to understand the figures of speech which have been used by Shakespeare. As Sir talked about, the techniques of English have to be discovered to meet the AOs so that a person can get a good grade. Sir, could you please move forward with the slide? Will, sir, could you please move the slide? Thank you, sir. Okay, so we continue. It says, Doctor, what a sigh is there. The heart is sorely charged. So, gentlewoman, I would not have such a heart in my bosom for the dignity of the whole body. Doctor, well, well, well. Gentlewoman, pray God it be, sir. Doctor, this disease is beyond my practice. Yet I have known those which have walked in their sleep, who have died holily in their beds. Lady Macbeth, wash your hands, put on your nightgown, look not so pale. I tell you yet again, Banquo's buried. He cannot come out once grave. Now, these are dialogues which Lady Macbeth had spoken earlier with Macbeth. So it is very important that we understand these parts of this speech. I would request everyone to look at the questions. Starting with this moment in the play, explore how Shakespeare presents Lady Macbeth's state of mind. Write about how the guilt of all misdeeds has affected Lady Macbeth. So you cannot mention all the misdeeds until and unless you know the development of the character from the first scene until the end. And I would like to add here that I always tell my students that one of the facts which we really study about in Macbeth is that supernatural plays a very important part in this play. And whatever unfolds before us is because of the predictions of three witches. Now, witches in itself are supernatural powers. And often, Lady Macbeth is considered as the fourth witch in the play because she very successfully instigates Macbeth to that extent that he agrees with the assassination of the king and with doing all those things which he might have not imagined before his wife making him do it. So that is one of the reasons why she is considered as the fourth witch in the play. And again, there's a very important question, which I have seen has been asked a lot of times, a comparison between the character of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, who is more evil? So that sort of questions are asked. Second question, how Lady Macbeth behaved earlier in the play as a whole. So as I said, we have to deal with those things which bring about a change in the character in the characters of the play. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are the two most important characters of the play. So obviously we have to read each and every dialogue which are, said by Macbeth and by Lady Macbeth. Through their dialogues, through their interactions with the people, through their action in the play, we come to the conclusion what their characters and how their characters are changing from the beginning till the end. Because with the change of their characters, the events in the play also unfold. I would say that when we are teaching the students, we suggest to them always mark with a star those dialogues which are very important, and especially the soliloquies or the asides or the dialogues wherein the person is talking to himself. So these things are very important in Shakespearean plays specifically, because it's like they uh, they throw light upon those points which we cannot find in the dialogues of the other people. Will, sir, could you please move forward? We have another extract here from Shakespeare. So obviously in this question, we have to, as I said, we have to meet the expectations of the AOs. And in the first one, it has been mentioned clearly that Lady Macbeth's guilt is prominently portrayed through her actions. As I said, she keeps repeating things about washing her hand and so on, particularly through her obsessive behavior of washing her hands to cleanse herself of Duncan's blood. She keeps washing and she still has the feeling that the blood is there. If you might remember, in the dialogue itself, she says, "Who knew that this old man has so much blood in his body, that all the oceans of all the perfumes of Arabia and all the water of the ocean cannot clean her hand?" So that is the extent of guilt that she is really having in her heart. So there's a clear contrast between Lady Macbeth's previous assertive and manipulative demeanor, because she's the person who manipulates the assassination of Duncan. But here we find a lady who's so fragile, and she's so, she's so sick with the feeling of guilt. So reference to Lady Macbeth's earlier role in the play as the driving force behind Duncan's murder, showcasing her ambition and determination. And later on, she loses her mind and she dies. So there's a huge contrast, there's a huge change which is brought about in her character in the play itself. So we need to follow it very closely. Second AO says that Shakespeare uses powerful imagery and language to depict Lady Macbeth's mental turmoil, disturbance, such as her repetitive and desperate cries of "out damned spot." As I said, she cannot get out of the feeling that the hands have been washed clear of the blood. She says, "Nobody knows what we have done. Nobody can question our power." She's saying this also. But again, she says that her hands are covered in blood and no amount of water can wash it. The dialogue between Lady Macbeth and the other characters highlights the change in her behavior, emphasizing her psychological breakdown. So, two extremes are presented in the character of Lady Macbeth. In the beginning of the play, she looks very, very manipulative, it can be said, and she seems to be very confident of what she's doing. But towards the end, she loses everything, even her mind. So there's a huge contrast, as I said a few minutes ago. Analysis of the soliloquy, as I said, soliloquies play a very important role in Macbeth. So analysis of the soliloquy where Lady Macbeth reflects on the impossibility of washing away the guilt, revealing the depth of her mental anguish. So how much of anguish she's going through can be gauged from her activities. And these activities we see in the small extract which has been given to us. And this extract can help the student make a comparison with her character, which was in the beginning of the play and what it is now. Sir, can we move forward, please? So we come to the AO3. It says, exploration of the thematic significance of guilt and its consequences in the play, reflecting broader societal and moral issues. Obviously, whatever is immoral cannot last long. So the question of morality is there. Macbeth had got the crown by killing the king. He had done something very immoral. So obviously in the end of the play, he is punished. Lady Macbeth had been with him, supported him, instigated him to do these activities. And therefore, she also pays for the actions which were immoral. And frankly speaking, Shakespeare in all his plays, in fact, all the plays which are there, which you can see, which has been offered by GCSE, somewhere he mentions the rights and the wrongs of the society. If you do wrong, you will be punished for it. If you do right, you flourish. So that is there in Macbeth as well. If Macbeth has done something wrong, he's punished. So that is always there. The reflection of the society can be found in the plays of Shakespeare. As I said in the beginning, Shakespeare's plays are timeless. They can fit into any time. So obviously in the modern times as well, we can always explain this to the students. In the modern times also, it's a true fact that if we do something wrong, at the end, we will be punished for that. And ambition is good, but over ambitious, that's not good. So, consideration of the portrayal of gender roles and expectations. Now, again, this gender role, we have to say that Lady Macbeth, when she tries to become very confident in that, she says, I should have been a man and not a woman. She says that this in the beginning of the play. So, only a man can be very strong and can do such things, not a woman, not expected of a woman. So, that was the gender difference which was there, especially in relation to Lady Macbeth's ambition and subsequent guilt. Because she's a woman, that is why she's overcome by guilt. And since Macbeth is a man, he is not overcome by guilt. So this is the division which is formed there in the play. The gender difference is shown in the play. So these are the things which we need to really focus on when we are dealing with Shakespeare's plays, be it tragedy, be it a romantic play, be it a play like The Tempest, which is a romantic comedy, and so on. We generally focus a lot on the development of the characters in Shakespeare, and through these developments, we can surely cover the whole theme of the play. Well, sir, I think that should be more than enough for Shakespeare. And we should move to Rose, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, that would be good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, hi there, everyone. Good evening. So, before we move further, and as Sab ma'am continued, I would like to add on, and I'll just make a parallel comparison from Shakespeare to the era where these modern plays are written. These modern plays, they have been written in the Edwardian era or after that, like it's written in the when I talk about an Inspector Calls, it's written in the it's written in the World War times, and it was played during the post World War. It was played on the stage in 1945. While the modern dramas, they have two questions, and what you have to do, you have to pick one question. As Wilsa said, 50 minutes of time will be given to you, but it's your turn, or you actually have to decide. Like you can take 10 minutes for planning, and after that, you take 35 minutes to sort of write what you want and establish your answer. And after that, take 5 minutes to finally proofread it and give it a conclusion. So that's the planning part. But dear kids, remember there might be instances in modern prose and drama that you do not find a lot of extracts, just like you find them in Macbeth. But one thing is there, like there's a surety, or it's been seen that it's believed that in modern dramas, what happens is we are asked one question is based on, let's say, the plot, but the other will be based on the characters. So, as Sadnam said, I'm just continuing on those grounds only, that if you actually plan the character development, or if you just write about the character development from the beginning to the end, you can answer your questions. The fact is that, the themes might change. One day you ask for, like, let's say you ask about the role of responsibility, or the other day you are asked about the generation difference, like in here we'll be asked in Inspector Calls. What you have to do, take that simple ground character development establishment and mold your answer according to that situation. That is the best possible way you can do it. Before we move, I would actually make you people remember that we have certain tricks like P, where we say, first of all, give the points, secondly, explain the evidences, like give the evidences, in the third, explain them, and in the fourth one, please link your answer with the context of the world as well. Here, this play, it was written during First World War, and it was played first of all in the Soviet Union, and after that it was played here in UK, but in 1945 after the Second World War. So while it was played, or let's say, while the characters performed it, we have seen the world wars. We have seen the World War First and the second. The world will be affected by it. So the character and story, you can somehow, somewhere write about that effect on the characters as well. Here, when we talk about the first question, we really must stop this silly pretenses. I would tell you that, first of all, it's a play that has only three acts. So, as students and as in order to gain good marks, we should be taking certain quotes, like whatever our characters are saying, like take the important quotes so that you can write about them, explain them to get good marks. So when I say we really must stop this really pretenses, obviously I'm talking about the pretending characters of the nature. They pretended, all of them. They pretended that they were very good, whatever they did, whatever their actions were. They were all good and moral. They were sitting on a moral high ground. They were sitting on a higher pedestal because they all belong to a higher society of the English. And that also gives me the idea, like connected with the context, that also gives us the idea, all right, that there is still the class difference. Yes, the women, yes, it also talked about the bias or the patriarchy that existed back then in the society. How? It's about the Edwardian era. And for the novels and for the dramas which are set after the Victorian Edwardian era, I can actually assure you that most of the novels, most of the dramas, you can actually write about the difference between the men and the women in the society. Here also, while Sheila and Sybil, the mother, like Mrs. Burling, they both were shallow or they felt empty or hollow because of the fact that they were not working. The only fact or only thing that they could rely on for a better future was nothing but their parents. So yes, it is also talking about as I said, it is also talking about the hypocrisies. It's also talking about the pretenses. So take those instances. Here, when we say, Mr. Burling, he tried to be like, he know it all. He tried to look like a know-it-all person. He thought, he act very confident, and he always, sounded very passionate in whatever he talked. So please take certain instances where he actually looks very passionate about what he says. Like he's saying, he talks about before this, like what happens, like before the novel starts. In the beginning of the play only, sorry, in the beginning of the play, what happens? Mr. Berlin, he says the Titanic, she says next week and unsinkable, absolutely unsinkable. He, at the beginning of the play, is depicting that the Titanic is not going to sink. Secondly, he also predicts that there's not going to be any war. And what happened was the two world wars happened afterwards. So it's actually automatically an foreshadowing and the foreshadowing and the tragic irony that the writer is trying to present here. That if you try what, because he Priestley as a writer, he wanted to present the real scenario of the situation of the society back then. Like this is the assessment objective third for us, or you can say we can write that for assessment objective one as well, where we actually are expressing ourselves. So we'll start with the fact that Mr. Priestley, he actually wants to present us the picture of a society which was based on totally hypocrisy and people were focusing on their personal profits and nothing else. Secondly, we will give this with the example of Mr. Burling, who was we will take you can here take all the characters in a row. So Mr. Burling, we talk about when we talk about the Titanic and its unsinkability and the war cannot happen. It shows that he is not knowledgeable at all, but he tries to look like he knows it all because he is rich. Secondly, he's very much concerned about, though he appears very confident in front of everyone, he appeared very fearful in front of the inspector. And apart from that, even to Gerald Croft, he said, I think there's a chance of knighthood. He is also a part of the society where he's struggling every day to get to the next higher class or the next hierarchy. And that's why he is telling Gerald to tell Miss Lady Croft that, I am going to get a knighthood. I will also be.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Are we sharing the slide? I can't see it. Is it with me only or everyone can't see it?
No, it's stuck here. Like, will sir?
Yeah, Will sir, if you can move it.
So,
Correct. All right, thanks.
sir, can we get back to the first question? I was just explaining the first question only, Will sir, about the pretenses and the hypocrisy. So, what was happening? So, it is about Berlin. Then we have Mrs. Berlin, who appears to be a part of the society where she says she's working for the upliftment or the betterment of these people, of the backward people, of the disadvantaged people. But what she does instead is she denies help to a women in need. Eva was a perfect example for that, right? And she used this words like girls of that class. If you are a social worker and if you're working for the social upliftment of the society, how can you use such words? So this is also telling me or giving me the example of the pretenses. After that, we have people like Eric. When Eric started at the beginning of the play, you also have to take some example, like some evidences. You can take the example, and it started. Eric, he appeared like he was all fun and drunk and all. And he says, he was not in love with Eva, but whatever he did to her was justified because she was being a good sport. And so is Jared. Jared, who is engaged to a woman who is in his 30s, still, he helps a woman who is in need, and he justifies that having a relationship with her is okay out of his engagement, just of the fact because she needed money and he could help her this way. This also shows how men were like this is a target against the patriarchy, that men they kind of felt that they had the hold of the society back then. And then even the examples of Sybil and Sheila comes in. They are also just focused on one thing, focused on their appearances, focused on improving their social status by getting married into a higher class, and nothing else could be done. When about Sheila, we can give examples where the situation where she actually looks at her engagement ring and tells her mother, "Look, mommy, isn't it a beauty?" So this actually shows that this girl, she is very naive and innocent, and she's not aware of what's going on in the society. The society is about to see a upheaval in the form of world war, and she's sitting at home and just staring at her engagement ring. And when she saw Eva at Millward's, she was intimidated by her beauty. She was jealous and all, and that's why she got her fired from there. This shows that how shallow the society was back then. It was working on one particular model, working for your own upliftment, working on for your own benefit. But and you can here still give the example of two people like Eric and Sheila, that towards the end, how they improved and how they felt bad about their actions. They could take charge of their actions, but the other three people, Gerald, Mr. Billings, and Sybil Billings, Mrs. Billings, they could not take charge or responsibility of their action. This shows that they were they were unaware of what people are doing. And sir, the next slide, we will go to the next question. Will sir?
Ma'am, we are running a little out of time.
Okay, sir.
And we need some time for questions as well. So if we can be a little
I'll
fast.
just wind it up and fine.
All right.
Fine.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So what happens? It's better to ask for earth than to take it. Here, when you see the word, it is a quote from the play itself, and it is also symbolic. Earth is symbolic of the basic necessities. Earth is Mother Nature. So it provides you all, and it provides everyone with all equal things, right? But the people who comes in charge, it also is a picture of the society back then in the World War era, and it also shows that the people they were taking it. And this particular line, it's better to ask for the earth than to take it, is also a parallelism to the quote that has been said by Mr. Burling, who said that it's better, like, you should take hold of these people before they ask for earth. He feels that the workers, they shouldn't be given their rights, otherwise they will ask for earth, or they will ask for their basic rights. And this is a parallelism, and this shows that this is actually here. Inspector is saying these words, and inspector is actually is a person who is actually the language for Mr. Priestley. He is actually trying to give his message to the people through his words, through Inspector Goo's words. So, if we come to the objectives, assessment objectives, well, sir, can we go to the next slide quickly? So, what happens in the first assessment objectives? We talk about them, like we talk about the characters, we talk about the socio-economic dynamics, and we talk about how Sheila, she was responsible. She was a key character in taking her job from Millward. Mr. Billing, he was a person who took her job because she protested in the labor rights protest. And apart from that, the Sybil, she was, when we talk about Sybil and Eva's dynamics, what was happening is Eva had asked for social help also from Miss Eva's charity, but she denied her because of the fact that, she was pregnant. And after that, all other things. Then Gerald, he helped her, but he thought, helping her gives him a charge to have an affair with that girl. This also shows the shallowness, and we can all write about the characters' initial attitudes, where they are actually, it appears that they seek a consent, but in reality, they are not doing something quite opposite of that. So we can be using the juxtaposition that has been displayed by Mr. Priestley. In assessment 2, we can give examples of the foreshadowing in the irony in the form of Titanic and World War. And in the assessment objective second, we can use certain directions in the stage and the words that they have used. And in assessment 3, we can link it with the all the events that have been happening all together. Right, kids? So let's move to Wilson. He'll be giving you a brief description about Christmas Carol to you guys. Wilson, over to you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We have actually covered a lot, but then a little bit time constraint is there. So instead of going into the text that's in front of you, I'd rather jump onto the tips that I have for you. Okay. 19th century fiction, and there are two popular texts, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and A Christmas Carol. We have chosen the easier one. Why? Because the length of the text is manageable and you can read it in 2 or maximum 3 sittings easily. If you're a fast reader, 1 sitting, all right. Okay. So first thing is, if this is the text that you have chosen or your school has chosen for GCSE, then give it a first reading just for fun. Enjoy it. Second reading, annotate it. Third reading, by that time, you must have questions in your mind. Why? This is the first tip. Don't learn a very large number of quotations that you want to use on your answers. Rather, you learn 5 or 10 central quotations that can be used in a large number of ways. There are questions based on themes. There are questions based on characterization. There are questions based on points of view also. What you need to do is you need to have, say, approximately 10 quotations from this text that you are confident you'll be able to use in a very large number of questions. So I would say that don't go for character-based quotations, go for rather theme-based quotations. And then you see if for example, you have from this novel, if you have done quotations that are based on the need of sympathy for the poor, then you will be able to use that in a large number of ways. If that quotation is coming from the character that has been asked in the question, you can directly use it. If not, then you can have angles using which you can still use the quotation in your answer. So instead of learning a large number of quotations for a large number of purposes, you learn a few central quotations that you can use in a large number of ways. That's my first tip, so that you don't have to do a lot. The second tip is annotate, write, revise. Between that, make your mind maps. Because once you convert the textual information into visual information, especially when the visual information is arranged in the form of a mind map and colored too, I'm quite sure you will find that it's a very quick way of revising. So my first tip was very small number of quotations usable in a large number of ways. My second tip is make your mind maps properly based on theme and characterization. That's the second thing. The third thing is that, of course, you must have a very fairly good idea of what's happening in the text. That is the summary of the text, but there is no summary that can substitute the text. So go through it a couple of times. And you're doing all of this because you're going to write GCSE paper. So before you even touch the text, I suggest you go to AQA website, check the question papers, and for this specific test, note down questions, actual questions from the papers. Have a question bank, underline those questions, the important points from there, then come and visit the text, then come and make your mind map, then come and go for your quotations. I will not go into the text because, as I said, we are running short for time. I am now going towards Sahyog methodology, which is our scientific methodology that we have developed, as Sanjay ji said in the very beginning, around a decade now that we've been with you students. Is Lalit ji here? Lalit ji, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so this is the one portion where I'll always remember you, Sahyog methodology.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. So actually, this is regarding how we do and what we do and how it's going to be long lasting in your minds, and how this just learning is not only for the class or for the exam, it's for the life. So if you see, there are 4 categorical steps we can see. The first step is called pre-lecture material. Pre-lecture material means before lecture, we make sure students have access to the notes, video notes, animations, or other kind of mind map which is required pre to the class. We expect the student would come to the class after having reading these notes. Then the class will be more interactive, more kind of question answers, and more kind of curiosity when the student would be there. Learning would be a bit higher. Then there is a proper class in which the interaction with the teacher would happen, and those notes, as well as apart from the note, the real exam like questions would be taken care of by the teacher, and they bring real exam like situation and questions in the class. After the class, there is another important exercise: how much the class affected it through assessment and assignment. An assessment and assignment tests happen, and along with that, the analysis of that is more important. How much a student has done and which portions are weak and which were strong, and that feedback going back to the or parents as well as to the teacher, because we always believe at Sahyog it's a tripartite strategy. It's a triangular approach for the development of student, right? So feedback is basically more towards the reinforcement part, because once we have the feedback to the parent have the feedback to us, and then we will try to reinforce those kind of gap areas, and strength become more stronger, and we will try to eliminate the weaknesses by working on the key specific areas where the gap of concepts are concerned, right? And this cycle continue. This is the cycle which continue every class. Basically, I would say this is a weekly cycle, because before the class we have lecture material, then we have the class, then we have the assessment assignment within the week, and at the end of the week we have this, and then we have feedback session with the parent. And so this cycle continues, and the gaps and upliftment and reinforcement every weekly happen. And after 3 or 4 week or a month, there would be a combined unit test, multiple unit tests, on which we can see, okay, this particular unit coming again, and how much development happened in the kid in the last 4 weeks, right? By our action. So we can look back and check what kind of development is there. So it's a well proven strategy, and well taken care of from a long time, and we have made a lot of changes to this to reach to the level when it is fully refined and fully successful. So this is how we teach as a yoga. Yeah. Any questions we will discuss in question answer session, please.
All right. So thank you so much, Will sir, Seb ma'am, Rose, and Lalit. This is a fantastic session as far as I can see. The efforts quite evident, and I can see the teachers are quite into it, and we ran out of time. It is very difficult to take off them from the topic when they're teaching. I really appreciate your efforts and the kind of content we have put into this webinar. It is available on YouTube, so feel free to go there and check if you really want to see and learn from the discussions what we had today. And if you have any questions, please ask now. And if you do not get time, then you can also drop a note to us at our email ID, academy@sahayog.co.uk. We'll be very happy to answer your concerns and questions, whatever it is. Feel free to ask questions, parents. Anyone? Come on, students or parents. If you have any questions, it's the time. I can see only one question on the chat. Yes, every week. And we inject the methodology, what we just discussed, into our sessions. And main goal is basically to prepare students for the exam for higher grade. You can chat your questions on the chat box, or you can email, or you can ask now. And just to announce, we have courses coming up starting next week, as well as some courses are ongoing. And we have opened the live classes registration for 2025 starting September. And we have summer intensive course coming up for 11+ students as well, just in case you have a smaller kid. Yes, another question from the same parent. Yes. These are good for year 10. Any other parent in this question, sorry, in this webinar or student, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. All right, I think the webinar was too long, and that could be the reason, but you can always send your queries to us on academy@sahayog.co.uk, or feel free to WhatsApp us or call us at our hotline. Once again, thank you very much for joining this webinar. If you have any more suggestions on which you would like us to run the webinar, please send your suggestions to our inbox. And I'm really appreciating the effort of my team, including Will sir, Rose ma'am, Seb ma'am, Lalit, and all the staff who have worked hard to prepare this webinar. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good evening.
You, good night.
All right.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.